bassist and no ordinary backing vocalist. He sang harmonies at thirds and even fifths above the melody while playing seriously lively bass parts. His voice put the sunshine in Van Halen. What are your top 5 Michael Anthony tunes? Mine would be Feel Your Love Tonight, Fools, Beautiful Girls, Best of Both Worlds, and now the live version of I Can't Drive 55. The man is a machine. Do you think Michael Anthony would be lauded more if Van Halen's biggest hits were so Mike-light? Jump, Panama, and Hot for Teacher. Keep up the awesome work and follow me on Instagram at Daniel W. Sinclair. All right, Daniel, listen. This is what I did for you. Because I can't help myself, I have made my top 5 Mike of the Sammy years and top 5 Mike of the Dave years.
You can never make it simple.
Hey, that's 2 separate bands to me. So I'm going to say Mike in the Dave years. Somebody get me a doctor. Feel Your Love Tonight. Jamie's Crying. Hear About It Later, and Dance the Night Away. There is in no particular order, but those are my top 5. The Sammy years. Summer Nights. Top of the World. Cabo Wabo. Runaround, and Feels So Good. What about you, Dave? Where do you stand?
Okay, so since he said top 5 Michael Anthony performances, that technically doesn't mean there had to be Van Halen performances. So I thought outside the box.
Listen to you.
I know.
Taking it another direction.
Because I had something I really wanted to be in there, and it wasn't a Van Halen song.
Right,
so that's why I did
that.
Yeah. But anyway, so number 1 was In a Simple Rhyme.
Okay.
Number 2, Push Comes to Shove.
Right.
3, Secrets.
Okay.
Of course. 4 is Down the Drain by Chickenfoot.
Wow.
And 5, which is really my number 1 of all time.
Wow.
Is the live version of Right Now.
Ooh.
From Sam's 2006 tour when he did that DVD. I think it was called Long Road to Cabo. Or something like that.
That's insane. From St. Louis?
Yes.
Okay. Oh, yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay.
Very good.
Yeah.
Right. Well, of course, it's always from St. Louis.
Right.
But yes, it's the St. Louis show, and Mike does a bass solo.
Oh.
In the middle of Right Now. It is his song all the way, and arguably his finest hour as a musician.
Wow.
So go hunt that out if you haven't heard it before. It's on YouTube. Love it, love it, love it.
Absolutely.
So those are my top 5 Mikey performances.
Yes, awesome. Those are great deep dives. Everybody go look that up. Fantastic polls. Listen, Mike's job is not a showy one. He's not lauded because Eddie and Dave are such big icons. It's hard to get some spotlight in there when those guys are around. But Michael is a solid foundation that he builds with Alex to back up Ed and Dave. And he is not good. He is not great. He is perfect in his role. And not only his playing, but his attitude. And that's where I stand on Mike. So we are in full agreement. We are fans of Mike. Mike, get your ass on this podcast. And we are on to letter number 12 from Brad Snitzer. I have a question you may want to discuss on your podcast. I know Eddie is not very active on social media, but Janie is active on Twitter. She posts daily, but never anything about Eddie. When you scroll through her pics, Eddie is nowhere to be found. I thought she was originally his publicist. Wouldn't you think the wife of the greatest rock guitarist would post about her husband even a little? I find that odd. Just curious as to your thoughts. Love the podcast, Brad Snitzer. Well, I think Jamie does a lot of turning down stuff. I think that Ed likes to have someone who will do what he wants. If he had a regular publicist, they would be urging him to update his website, to tweet, to drop Instagram pictures every once in a while, keep up his Facebook posts. But again, he likes to keep it in the family. And I'm sure if he could get away with having Alex's son, Eric, sing lead on Van Halen, he would, so that everything would be in the family. What do you think, Dave?
Yeah, I agree with you. I mean, first of all, the social media presence is Cody.
Yeah.
Right, the dog.
He's the most active Van Halen.
well, he is. Let's face facts. I mean, she might not be doing it on her own social media feeds.
Right.
But she's definitely running Ed's whenever he posts something, which is a rarity. She's doing Cody's, right?
Right.
Because I'd be really impressed if Cody was doing it himself.
I mean, incredible.
And Ed is not David Lee Roth. He's a very private guy.
Yeah.
And his idea of a publicist is someone who does not publicize. And who better to grant your wishes in that regard than your wife, who is technically a publicist by trade.
True.
But, is not going to push you to what you want to do.
Absolutely.
It's just not Ed's thing, and so she's not going to push him into something he doesn't want to do.
Absolutely. And we are on to letter number 13, and it comes from Nick D'Angelo. He said, love the podcast. Have you guys checked this out? It's almost exactly to the Van Halen version. He's putting us toward the Dancing in the Street version by the Struts. I dig it, but wonder what Eddie might think. Well, Nick, we discussed this in Van Halen News. I don't know what the legalities are here, but this song is half Ed's. He remade that song by putting on original music, and for the Dodge commercial, I can't imagine there's not a lawsuit here, but I don't, like Dave said, I don't know if you can copyright arrangements or what the situation is, but this is troublesome and a sign of mismanagement, if you ask me. Dave?
Yeah, although I will say I like their cover.
Yeah.
I thought they did a good job because
totally.
it's a lot more guitar-oriented than Van Halen's version, at least when they're doing the riff.
Yep.
So,
they rocked it up.
As far as the cover of a cover, I thought they did a good job.
Yep, they did, for sure. We are on to letter number 14, and that comes from Robert Burton. He says, Romeo Delight really tried to capture every nuance of real Van Halen, right down to the fake Dave flubbing the lyrics on Secrets, just like the real Dave. But listening to their performance, they are really impressive. Coming from a picky bastard like me, seems like the hardest thing to nail is Ed and Mike's backing vocal blend, but they do it better than anyone else I've heard try. I do agree that Buddy does the best Roth, hands down, and the audio is much improved from last year's Van Halen bash. I want to thank you so much, Robert. We appreciate that, and we agree with you. Romeo Delight really killed it this year. There was the best that we've seen them, and the band is doing well. They're going to be out touring this summer, so you guys can catch them out, VanHalenTributeBand.com, and definitely try to see these guys. They're really phenomenal. If you want some live Van Halen, definitely go see those guys. Dave?
Agreed.
Okay. All right, cool. And we are on to the final letter of the night, which is Dave's favorite part. And although he gets a long one now. So this comes from Dave Moses, who's calling himself the third Dave. Before he was calling himself the fourth Dave. I don't know where we're at, Dave. David Lee Roth before is the third Dave, or the first Dave.
I think he's trying to sneak himself up the corporate ladder.
Yeah,
is what I think.
I think you're right. You got a damn good point there. He says, everyone brings up how different Ed and Dave are, and how the Clash is the secret formula of the band's magic. However, I submit to you another factor. They have a lot of similarities. If they didn't have any similarities and they were just polar opposites, they wouldn't be able to create the amazing music they have. And the similarities are, number one, that they have the same disciplinary type of parents, with Mrs. Van Halen and Mrs. Roth both yelling at the boys to do a good job. They said that that's something they share in common. They both bury themselves in their work. The way they do it, Eddie may do it at home and Dave may do it somewhere on the Amazon River, but they both bury themselves in what they do. That's for sure. Number three, they are both super driven to be their very best. When they actually get around to it, give each other their best performance possible, and there's no slacking on either parts. Number five, they both have wild creativity. Ed with his solos, Dave with his melodies and lyrics. Number six, they both have amazing originality. They are both share the gift of being an incredibly original artist in their own right. And number seven, they both grew up in the same town, parties, and cultural experiences in the Pasadena point of view. They both are maniac recluses. Even though Dave is vocal beyond unstoppable when he talks, Ed isn't. They both disappear into their respective man caves. Ed, of course, is at his 5150 cave, and Dave is hiking through the streets with his dog or under the 29th Street Bridge in a canoe. But they have to be alone. Yes, Dave has the need to go out and travel and be with people while Ed stays home, but they both seclude themselves in their own way and enjoy that isolation. What are your thoughts? Number one, I think they are very similar. That's for sure. Yeah, they did both have strict parents. They had strict moms and cool dads. They both have strong focus for sure. They're highly passionate guys. They want to be the best in their field. They are highly creative. Ed regarded in his guitar field. Dave doesn't get the respect he deserves in the vocal field because he's not like this unbelievable singer. But let's be honest, Dave created the model for the front man that lasted for decades for many people, or a poor man's David Lee Roth, for sure. Now, I think the big clash is they both strive to be the alpha in the situation. I think they both want to steer the ship. They fight over that, for sure. And yeah, their special clash is the clashing of them coming together, I think, is what makes Van Halen special. Dave, what do you think?
I think his observations are really good on their similarities.
Yeah.
Because you're right, people always pointing out their differences, but they definitely had similar drives and similar goals and things like that.
Yeah,
so
different styles.
So thank you for pointing that out, that, even though these guys are crazy different, there were similarities that united them and made a great band.
Yep, and that wraps up the mailbag segment. And we are on to our interview with former David Lee Roth guitarist Bart Walsh. What a character this guy is. He is such a fun and crazy guy, but he is full of great stories and anecdotes about his time in the band with Dave. And Bart was also the original guitarist for the Atomic Punks, the original Van Halen tribute band from the early 90s, and they are a phenomenal outfit. If you remember Ralph Sands, who is the lead singer of Steel Panther, I think he's known as Mike Starr in that band. But we talk about those days, his time with Dave, his time meeting Ed, all kinds of Van Halen stories and twists and turns, and what he's up to now and the current Van Halen project he's working on. So much more Van Halen to get through, and it's all coming up next. Take a listen.
Just like anything else, people have differences of opinion or whatever, and, Van Halen was on an extended hiatus, and I wanted to go out and play. I didn't want to just sit around and do nothing. And Sammy had put together this tour with Dave Lee Roth. They were playing the Sam and Dave tour, and he asked me if I wanted to come out and guest on a few of the shows, which I did maybe about a handful of shows on that tour with Sam. Just come out and play a few Van Halen songs. Well, let's just say that the powers to be, they were not too happy that I was doing something like that, and I kind of got backed up against a wall, and I wanted to go out and play, so I decided that I'm going to go out and play. I thought I'd be waving the Van Halen flag high while there was nothing going on really with the band at the time. So, things just kind of blew up from there, and I could just kind of leave the rest to your imagination. But that's basically how it all kind of came to be.
Need a laugh? Check out the Funny How Comedy Podcast, which focuses on upbeat conversations with legendary comedians. It's free on Spreaker and iTunes. Check us out on Facebook at Funny How Comedy Podcast, on Twitter at Funny How Podcast, on Instagram at Funny How Comedy Podcast, or email us at funnyhowcomedypodcast@gmail.com. If you would like to send us a letter asking a question or making a statement or whatever you'd like to say, you can send it to ddunchainedpodcast@gmail.com.
Hi, this is Ozzy Osbourne. You're listening to Dave and Dave on some fucking show called Unchained.
Pick up the top seller, Van Halen Rising, how a Southern California backyard party band save heavy metal. The new book by Greg Renoff. Learn about the early history of one of America's most decorated rock bands. Renoff goes deep into the Pasadena roots of the Van Halen brothers, David Lee Roth, and Michael Anthony. Go to VanHalenRising.com, where you can get autographed copies of the book, t-shirts, guitar picks, beer koozies, and more. VanHalenRising.com. Also available at Amazon.com.
We really prefer being musicians, artists, thinking of that way, other than being star figures and trying to really, put a lot into that. I mean, it's something you can do. You can contrive an image. You can do anything you want, physically to make yourself look all these different ways, dress all these different ways, get funny haircuts, do anything you want to do to project a certain image, and say about anything you want to say. Like right now, I could tell you some big line of crap if I wanted, and there'd be 60 million people out there going, wow. They'd believe it.
To me, I get a lot of satisfaction out of just geeking out and being myself, and people accepting that.
Ladies and gentlemen, we have an incredibly special guest this month. He is the former guitarist for David Lee Roth, and he was also in the band Atomic Punks, the Van Halen tribute band. Welcome, Bart Walsh. How are you, Bart?
Oh, I'm fair to partly, and, there's no warrant out today. You know, the cops hadn't knocked on my door, so it's a good day.
Oh, awesome. Well, we're excited to have you, and thanks for coming on. We wanted to start off the interview by asking you, at what age did you start playing guitar, and what drew you to the instrument?
Okay, then that's a serious question. We're gonna be serious today. Is that what this is about?
Well, we're gonna have fun. We're gonna be serious.